सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। चैतन्यं सर्वगं सर्वं सर्वभूतगुहाशयं यत्सर्वविषयातीतं तस्मै सर्वविदे नमः। सूक्ष्मता व्यापिते ज्ञेये गन्धादेरुत्तरोत्तरम् प्रत्यगात्मावसानेषु पूर्वपूर्वप्रहाणतः। सूक्ष्मता व्यापिते ज्ञेये. Jneye, to be known, to be seen, to be understood. Sukshmata vyapite. Sukshmata, the subtlety. Vyapita, the pervasiveness. Explain how Sukshmata, subtle, is not in terms of size, that it is smaller in size. It is unmanifest. It is more difficult to see. Thus the cause, material cause such as gold, pervades the effect such as the ornament. But we always transact that object as a bangle. We use the name, word bangle, and pratyaya, the corresponding concept of bangle. That is what registers in our mind. Even though gold is very much there, it does not register. In that sense, it is called sukshma or subtle. Thus the Tikakara showed how. As an example, took the fourfold beings, the human beings, the trees, and the animals, birds, etc. That we always use the word human being and animal, the Shabda and Pratyaya. Even though all these creatures, that is their bodies, are made up of earth, but we never say the earth, earth, earth. That word and the concept never occurs to us, so we don't use it. In that sense, earth, which is there but unmanifest to our mind, is called subtle. And vyapita, pervasiveness, when something, some entity, obtains in more place than the other one, like gold obtains in more places than ornament. Whereas an ornament is confined to a given time and place, given name and form, the whole pervades, is present in many other things. And that is called Vyapakam or Vyaptam. So Vyapitam, Vyapakam, pervasive. So this is the method that is employed. Pratyagatma avasaneshu. Gandhadehe, beginning with the grossest. Gandha or Prithvi. The subtlest. Pratyagatma avasaneshu. This inquiry or investigation. Pura prahanataha. Where the cause is given up, cause is resolved into material cause, the effect is resolved into material cause, which again is an effect of something else. Find that every effect gets resolved into cause. That cause turns out to be an effect, resolved in its own material cause, leading to Pratyagatma avasaneshu, leading to Pratyagatma, the innermost self, which is cause and not the effect. If such an entity was not there, if everything was an effect leading to cause, there will be no resolution at all. This will lead to infinite regression. Meaning that there will be we cannot arrive at the ultimate cause. But fortunately, there is a cause which is not an effect, Pratyagatma. Now it cannot be that something is cause and not an effect. As far as our world of names and forms is concerned, whatever kind of reality the world of names and forms possesses, the characteristic is that what is cause from one standpoint also in effect from another standpoint. And therefore this can go infinite regression, go round and round, etc. And therefore, by this process, we can never arrive at the ultimate reality, the process of science. Because it is assumed that the reality is objective reality. Reality is that which can be objectified. Whatever can be objectified falls in this category. Therefore, Vedanta shows how this process has to and does lead to a cause which is not an effect. Which means that it cannot be called even a cause also in primary sense. If Pratyagatma was a cause in primary sense, then it has to be an effect of something else. So although it can be called the cause, because Sadeva Swami idam agrasit ekameva dvitiyam Atma va idam eka evagrasit. All this was Atma before its creation. So what obtains before the creation is called the moment before the creation is called cause. By that definition, Atma or Sat can be called cause. So from one definition it can be called cause because clay is called the cause of the part because clay obtains a moment before the part is created. Similarly, before the universe is created, it obtains its Pratyagatma and that is called cause. This is volume is बहुत low છે. એટલે volume नहीं low, but I find myself just stretching મારો અવાજ વિચારો. So, thus, Pratyagatma avasaneshu. The avasanam, the ultimate culmination can be in Pratyagatma. Not if Pratyagatma fell in the same category as Gandhadi. Pratyagatma falls in a different category. It can be called cause because it obtains before the effect of the universe. But it's not a cause in as much as it is a cause from a given standpoint. Because what is a cause from one standpoint also will be effect from another standpoint. So it's not a standpoint. That's why it's called absolute. So Pratyagatma is absolute reality. Therefore, the process of resolving cannot be the same as or similar to resolving the fourfold beings into earth, or earth into water, or effect into material cause. That cannot be the process. It is like resolving of this snake into the rope, resolving mithya into satyam, in which the effect completely goes away. You see, what happens is, even if we resolve the effect into cause, the effect doesn't go away completely. Here the effect, such as a snake, is completely goes away. It is negated, not resolved. In the earlier process, the effect is resolved into cause. Here, the effect is completely negated to arrive at the cause. Understand the difference. Therefore, the same process cannot apply. Therefore, different process of negation. That's why vairagya is required. You do not require vairagya to arrive at the primary material cause for avyakta. Avyakta, prakriti, energy, what the physicists would call energy, is the primordial material cause. But now, that process of logical resolving of effect into cause has to stop there, because that process doesn't work. There was the process one of negation. Negating what? Negating mithya into satyam. So therefore, now we have to question or ask, what is the reality of energy? That cause of so-called energy cannot have the same degree of reality as energy. So Vedanta will say that the so-called energy or avyakta or prakriti is mithya. Whatever can be completely negated is called mithya. And therefore this energy or prakriti can be completely negated. Because ultimately it is only belongs to the mind. And mind can be completely negated. Because my existence does not depend upon mind. I exist independently. Whether mind is avyakta is there or not, I exist. So this principle of that is self-existing, self-shining, self-revealing, Vedanta would say that alone can be called reality. Not the residue of this business of resolving effect into cause. Reality is that which cannot be negated, abhaditam satyam. What is bhadayogyam is mithya. It's not real. It is for this purpose that the words mithya, satyam are used. Not for dismissing or denigrating or degenerating, for that mithya means, there is no intention of condemning mithya or branding it in mithya means mithya. That's all. Mithya you can say at the most, as Swami would say. Mithya will pronounce as something else, Westerners will pronounce it as something else. No, mithya. That's all it means. There is no meaning of that word. that it is fake, because Maya, something that cheats, something that hides, that's how the Maya. So Maya, Mithya, that's what they mean, but that is not the meaning of the word Mithya here. Anyway, so this is the process of resolving effect into cause. So Laya Prakriya. Elsewhere the Sarjan Prakriya is used, like in Chandogya 6th chapter. Tadaikshata Bahusyam Prajayeya. You begin with the cause and arrive at the effect. Sadeva Swami Idamagrasid Ekameva Dvitiyam. Begin with the cause and then how Tejaha Srujata created Tejas, Apaha, Annam. So, by the process of creation, the cause is shown as pervading the effect. Here, by the merger of effect into cause, effect is shown as pervaded by the cause, and there the cause pervades the effect. These are all methods of Atma Vichara. Ultimately, Vedantin's intention is not so much to contemplate upon nature of this world or something. By the way, the primary purpose is to contemplate upon the nature of Satyam Pratyagatma Vasaneshu. Here it leads to Pratyagatma. They begin with Pratyagatma to show how Pratyagatma alone is. Aitadatmidam sarvam. Etat or Sat is Atma of the universe. Ekameva Advitiyam. So creation Prakriya is used there. There also the resolution is there. Merger or the Laya Prakriya is there. How the father or teacher shows, pointing out to a fire, Agni. Yagnehe rohitam rupam tejasastaj rupam. Look at the fire. The red color, which is the fire, is the color of element Tejas. The white color is of the color of the element water. And therefore, apagad agnehe agnitvam. When you look at it that way, the Agni loses agniness. Trini rupani ityeva satyam. Three colors alone are satyam, meaning they are not negated. Vacharambhanam, vikaranam, devam, etc. So there, the name and form was reduced to three colors, and then the color black was reduced to red, and red into white into red, sat, fire into sat, etc. So that prakriya of Sarjan and merger. So Pratyagatma Vasaneshu. So ultimately the Tikakara explain how. Because the shloka says Pratyagatma Vasaneshu. Pratyagatma is Satchidananda, Satchit at least. So how Sat and Chit Asti and Bhati pervades everything and is not pervaded by anything. Satchinmatram sarvasya upadanam tasya arthantarena anugama adarshanat. We find that everything is accompanied with something else. The pot is accompanied with clay. The effect is accompanied with the material cause. And that's how we arrive at the material cause from the effect. So if we inquire what is the material cause of Satchit Asti Bhati? Is something accompanies Asti Bhati? What is meant by accompanying is that what is accompanied depends upon what accompanies. If pot is accompanied by clay, then pot depends upon clay for its existence and manifestation. It is the upadana karanam, material cause, that manifests and shines as the effect. So this is how we went up to Asti Bhati. Now, do we find that Asti Bhati also is accompanied by something else? Arthantarena, anugama darsana, arthantarena, by another entity. Like the pot is accompanied by another entity called clay. However, because there is a different name and form, so Shabda and Pratyaya of the pot are one. Shabda Pratyaya of clay are different, therefore we call it Arthantaram, another entity. So now if you ask whether Satchit or Asti Bhati, is it also accompanied by another entity? No. And therefore, Arthantarena Anugama Adarsanat Nirupadanakatve Siddhe. What accompanies is called Upadana Karanam. What is accompanied is the Karyam. And that is the process of resolving that we followed. Gandhadehe Uttarottaram, beginning from Gandha, the Prithvi. Pura Pura Prahanataha, by resolving the following one into the previous one, into the following one. When we come to Satchit or Asti Bhati, that process cannot be followed in primary sense. Cannot follow at all. We cannot resolve it any further. We cannot negate it any further. What cannot be negated is called Satyam. Therefore, Satchinmatram Sarvasya Upadanam Nirupadanatva Siddhe. You find Asti Bhati doesn't have Upadanam because not accompanied by anything. And therefore, Sarvasya Upadanam. It is the Upadanam of everything. Nirapeksha Vyapakatvam. So the cause has pervasiveness. But relative pervasiveness, because that cause is again pervaded by its own cause. So cause such as clay has pervasiveness. But less pervasiveness with reference to its own cause, which is water. Does that rule apply to Asti Bhati? Doesn't apply. Its pervasiveness is not because of something. The pervasiveness that the earth possesses is because the pervasiveness is imparted by water, the Upadana Karanam. And therefore the pervasiveness is there but not independent. So ultimately we come to Asti Bhati or Satchit. We find that that pervasiveness is not because of something else, not imparted by something else. Therefore, Satchinmatram Sarvasya Upadanam. It does not have Upadana of it, so otherwise it cannot be Sarvasya Upadanam. An entity cannot be the material cause of everything if it has its own material cause. So earth pervades all its products, but cannot pervade water. Therefore, it is not Sarvasya Upadana, it is Upadana only of its own effect. For something to be Sarvasya Upadanam, it should not have its own Upadanam. Therefore, Asti Bhati Satchit is Sarvasya Upadanam. The pervasion of Vyapita that other entities possess is relative. Because the Vyapita is imparted by its own cause. But Vyapita that Asti Bhati possess is not imparted by anything else. Nirapeksha Vyapakatvam. See, Vyapakatvam that everything possesses is not Nirapeksham, Sapeksham. The Vyapakatvam earth is less than that of water. So it's just, But Vyapakatvam of Asthibhati is not relative to anything. So Nirapeksha Vyapakatvam, Nirapeksha Sukshmatvam. Tat anena Sachinmatreena Sarvasya Drishyarashe Grastatvat Vyaptatvat. The whole Drishyarashi, the whole objective creation, from the galaxies to the subatomic particles, Sachinmatrena Grastatvat Vyaptatvat is all pervaded by Sachinmatra. Tatah purata kyam vastu na vidyate. Nothing obtains separate from Asthibhati or independent of Asthibhati. So this is how the inquiry comes to a conclusion. Otherwise there is no conclusion. The way physicists is conducting inquiry will never come to a conclusion. Because mithya cannot have conclusion. This is called mithya, which is always accompanied by some kind of a logical defect. Therefore, either paraspara, one thing is because of niyas, that's and then chakratmaka, and then infinite degradation, etc. So, one of these defects will come in the universe. That's what the logicians found. So there cannot be apratishta tarka. The conclusion arrived at by tarka or reasoning can never be final. All it requires is a superior tarka, that's all. So it will last for some time until it is challenged. After some time, someone will come with superior reasoning, and that one is challenged and replaced by something else, which is good. That is good. That's how we learn more and more and grow more and more, materially anyway. Not spiritual growth, but material growth. That also is required for living life. But here, the pratyagatma avasaneshu tasya paramasukshmada vyapitve nischitya. Asthibhati enjoys paramasukshmada paramavyapita iti nischitya. So that nischaya, the conviction, ascertainment should arise in our mind. Soham, that Asthibhati, Sachin, I am. That also has to happen. So it's not that it's an objective thing. Asthibhati is something that I can objectify. It is myself. Asanga kutasadvayatma iti. That asanga kutasadvayatma iti iti sada bhavet. Iti tatparyata. The tatparya, the purport of this vakya is that may you constantly contemplate upon the nature of self in this manner. Now we continue. Nanu na etavata atmana ukta rupatva jnana siddhi. Etavata, merely by this process that you described, Gandha dehe uttarottaram, beginning of Gandha, arriving at Asthibhati Sachit, Ukta Swarupatva Jnana na Siddhi na. You cannot arrive at Aham Asangaha Kutastaha Advayatma iti. That yes, Sachit is almost pervasive, subtlest. But how do you establish asangoham, kutastoham, advayatmaham? So Tikakara, that's how you should contemplate. Simply by saying that everything dissolves into Asthibhati, how will it make it asanga, kutastha, advayatma? Why not? Adhyatma adhidevatayo prithivyadehe bhedena prasamanatva. Advaitvam cannot be established. Because we find Adhyatma Prithvi and Adhideva Prithvi. And everything, you started with Gandha or Prithvi, all right. You took for granted that Prithvi is one, but Prithvi is not one. With Adhyatma Prithvi, Prithvi obtaining at the individual self, Adhideva Prithvi, Prithvi obtaining it, in the cosmic level. So, Prithvi obtaining at the Adhyatma individual level is experienced as different from Prithvi obtaining at the cosmic level. How can Advitiyatvam be established when these two entities are different? Adhyatma adhidevatayo prithivyadehe bhedena prasamanatvat. Prasamanatvam prasiddhatvam. That everybody knows or everybody takes for granted that the Prithvi that obtains out there is different from Prithvi. I recognize that I am one of these fourfold bodies, and therefore this is Prithvi, modification of Prithvi, that is understood. But Prithvi that obtains out there is much vaster and of a different dimension. And so they are two different entities. So therefore now, this question is answered in the next verse. Sharira prithvi tavat yavad bahya pramanatah amvadini cha tattvani tavat jneyani kritsnashah. Sharira prithvi tavat. To illustrate, yavat. Sharira prithvi obtaining in sharira is bahya prithvi, the same as the external prithvi, prithvi outside. Pramanatah, in measure. Ambuadini tattvani, same rule applies also because the water here is different, looks like different water out there. Same rule applies to, because Gandha, they have begun Gandha and Rambu up to Akasha. Same rule applies that there is no division between Adhyatma and Adhideva. So says the Tikakara, Yavat Bahya Prithvi Pramanatah. Call it Pramanam, Parimanam, measure. So whatever is the size or measure of the Prithvi obtaining Bahya, starts with Bahya. So whatever is the measure of the Prithvi which is out there, Tavat Pramana Sharira Prithvi Jnaya. The Prithvi obtaining at the body also has the same measure. What is measure? The Prithviness, what else then? So the earthness that the external earth possesses is the earthness that the individual earth possesses. In that sense, there is no difference at all between earth that obtains, because how do you measure? It is not dimension of space, etc. Did you say this is Prithvi? Prithvi is called Prithvi not because of length and breadth. Prithvi is called Prithvi because it is Prithviness, Fire is called fire not because the flame is certain size and shape. Fire is called fire because it is light and heat. So Prithvi is Prithvi because it is Gandha, So in that sense, Prithvi out there is no different from Prithvi obtaining here. So, pramanatah, parimanatah, by measure. So, you cannot think of two Prithvis. It is generally known or it's believed that Prithvi out there is different from Prithvi here. How did you arrive at this conclusion? By somehow associating the dimension of length and breadth with Prithvi. That's how you say that there's boundary, that Prithvi has a boundary there, this Prithvi is boundary here. But that length and breadth is not called Prithvi. Gandha, that's a Gandha Dehe. So Gandha word was used for Prithvi. That Prithvi means Gandha or the smell. As far as smell is concerned, that Prithvi and this Prithvi are no different at all. So even though it seems to be a common conclusion that Prithvi out there is different from Prithvi that is here, now reflect properly. That Prithvi is not measured by length and breadth. Prithvi is determined to be what it is by its inherent quality, which is called Gandha. In that sense, the Prithvi obtaining out there is not separate from Prithvi obtaining the individual level. So recognize this. Because the process of resolving Prithvi into water, etc., this obstacle remains there. Wait a minute. The Adhyatma Prithvi and Adhidaiva Prithvi are different. Says resolve that also, that they are not different. Amvadini cha tattvani, ambuvadini cha tattvani. Same thing applies to ambu means water. All the five elements obtain the individual level. All five elements obtain at the total level, cosmic level also. Vyasti and Samasti. So Vyasti and Samasti are the difference in our mind. For whatever reason. Because we have formed a bound in our mind as a boundary of what is where the Vyasti ends. There is no such entity as Vyasti or individual. The idea of individual is because of the boundary of identification. I call this individual body or earth because of the boundary of my identification. Identified with this Prithvi, therefore I call it the Adhyatma Prithvi. So this difference between Adhyatma and Adhideva is created by me. They are known to be different from each other because for whatever reason I identify only with one aspect, one little fraction of Prithvi, not with other fraction. If I change my identification, then the whole thing will be one only. That's what upasanas are to identify. With cosmos is possible. And so these divisions of Adhyatma, Adhideva are arbitrary divisions. Even though they are well known, but they are arbitrary divisions on account of the boundary of the identification that I have. There is no rhyme and reason as to why I should only identify this much. I do that. If I choose to identify with cosmos, I can do that also. Hiranyagarbha is the same consciousness. Identify with all the bodies. Virat identifies with all the gross bodies. So thus when we think this way, we realize that the divisions of Adhyatma and Adhideva are arbitrary divisions. Because of the identification that I have with one fraction of thing which I call Adhyatma. That kind of nomenclature also I have given, Adhyatma and Adhideva. Tatha ambvadini chatvari bhutani krishnasya niravasheshaya tavat tavat pramanani gneyani. So also water. Same arbitrary division of Adhyatma Adi Daiva. Vyashti Samashti. Krishna says Niravasheshataya. When you take just waterness into account, then there are no such divisions. Tavat tavat pramanani jnani. That the measure, if you want to call it pramana or measure, the water in the individual level has the same measure, because measure is nothing but taste. Same taste also obtains on the adhibhuta water. Yavat sharira bhashya cha prithvi. So whatever is dimension of prithvi at the individual level is a dimension of water also, because if you want dimension, then prithvi exists everywhere. There is not that prithvi is confined here and that prithvi is different, so also water, same water exists everywhere. And so, how do you arrive at the Advitiyatva? The question was that there seems to be Dvaita or Bheda or division between Adhyatma and Daiva. So how do you say Advitiyo, that I am one? There is a division. Etaduktam bhavati, so Tikakara says, Adhyatma adibhuta adidaivatmana vibhaktanam. One should be added adibhuta also. Adhyatma adibhuta adidaiva. The individual, the elemental, the divine. Vibhaktanam prasivyadinam. When the creation takes place, then these divisions take place. All kinds of divisions, if you want to call them, or differences or duality is in the effect. So there is duality or manyness in the pots and pans. So that is called a process of creation, where one becomes many as though. So what we experience is the effect, the manyness. We call it many because we have our own criterion determining what is one and what is many. And since we have confined the Adhyatma to one name and form, therefore, since this name and form is Atma, every other name has a different Atma, that's how the manyness comes in the Atma also. That will come later on also. So this manyness is at the level of effect. If you go to cause, then manyness resolved into oneness. So Adhyatma adaivatanam devatmana vibhaktanam prithivyaadinam. Earth and others like water, etc., all the five elements, which are vibhaktanam, which are divided into Adhyatma adibhuta adidaiva. But when you think of Prithvi, then that division of Adhyatma adibhuta disappears. When you see that Prithvi-ness is the same as Adhyatma adibhuta deva, then Prithvi is product of water and so on and so forth, all the product of ignorance. And there is no difference in ignorance. That ignorance that gave rise to Prithvi, this Adhyatma is different ignorance giving rise to adibhuta, etc. Eka agnyana vijrumbhetatvad. The cause is one. So oneness is obtained when you go to cause. That's why the ultimate cause called Pratyekatma. Here, for resolving purposes, we go to the cause which is Ajnanam. It is one Ajnanam that has given rise to all this diversity. Not division but diversity. The various ornaments are diverse. Division is our mind, that bangle is different from earring, etc. That division is in our mind. There is diversity in names and forms. Therefore, you go to cause which is gold, then all the divisions disappear. Because diversity was called division by us. Ek agnan vijrumbhitatvat. एक प्रयत्नेन प्रविलापनोपत्तेः. So thus when we can see that the Adhyatma, Adhibhut, Adeva, Prithvi and Ambu and all these are products of one Ajnanam only. Therefore, when you resolve that Ajnanam, all these things get resolved. When you resolve the cause, the effect gets resolved. The causes were many, then you have to resolve each cause into its own thing. Cause is one, Ajnanam is one. Therefore, एक प्रयत्नेन प्रविलापन उपत्तेः. One ajnanam is resolved by jnanam. Then whatever was supposedly created by ignorance also gets resolved. Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Adhideva, everything gets resolved. Pravilapanam, Pravilapanam, merger, dissolving, negating. Sarvatra pratyak tattva anugamat. All of this pratyekatma avasaneshu. The ultimate cause, ajnanam, ultimately gets resolved to astibha satchit. The pratyekatma, the inner self. Therefore, it is possible to see that everything ultimately it resolves into pratyekatma. One. Because everything is the product of one ignorance. Ignorance of one pratyekatma, by the way. Not any other ignorance. Ignorance of pratyekatma is the cause for all this creation. There we find that one pratyekatma, the adhyatma also resolves in one pratyekatma, the adhibhuta also, adhideva also. So then when you come back to effect, you can see, hey, Adhyatma also is pervaded by pratyekatma. Adhibhuta also. Because all of them were the products of one jnanam, lives only pratyekatma. Therefore, Adhyatma tena vyaptam. So pratyekatmana vyaptam we find that Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Adeva, each one of them is pervaded by, accompanied by pratyekatma. First see that each one, all of them are product of one ignorance. That one ignorance leads to one pratyekatma, all pervaded by ignorance. So Satchit and pratyekatma. Na tada prasagasti iti. No adhyatma, adeva exists separate from pratyekatma, astibhati, Satchit. Pratyak tattva avadharyaman. Therefore, to realize that the Adhyatma Prithvi also is pratyekatma, Adhibhuta Prithvi also is pratyekatma, Ahideva Prithvi also, because each one is accompanied by pratyekatma. The bangle also is gold, earring also is gold, nose ring also is gold. But each one is accompanied with gold. So you see that Adhyatma, everything is accompanied by Anugama is there, pratyekatma. So nothing is separate from pratyekatma. What is pratyekatma? Pratyak tattve avadharyamana. When each one is recognized as pratyekatma, pratyekatma means my inner self. Even this body also inner self, external world also is, because nothing is separate pratyekatma. So parag, nothing remains external. Therefore, bahya adhyatmika adhyatmikadi veda surte anavakashat. See, when you see, and I see all the ornaments as gold, then in my mind no name and form shines. All that shines is gold. So also when I see that all these adhyatma, adhibhuta, etc., they are all never apart from pratyekatma, satchit. So they all resolve living satchit in my mind as myself. Pratyekatma brahmatavan matrameva sarvam avashishyate. Just all the ornaments ultimately remain as gold, so also all the adhyatma, etc., all of them simply remain. They resolve into, culminate into Pratyegatma only. Satchit, which is myself. Soham. Iti bhavedeva pragukta atmatattva siddhi. Thus it is possible to see everything as pratyak, pratyak, pratyak. Soham, soham, soham. Jadi adhyatma, adibhuta, adideva, even though there may appear to be differences or divisions at one level, but when we look at them from the standpoint of cause, they are all seen to be one pratyekatma, shining as adhyatma, adibhuta, adideva. So I have the freedom to let go, or even when I appreciate adhyatma, it is always accompanied by pratyaktvam, never separate from pratyaktvam. So pratyaktvam, the idea of soham, that never leaves me. Nothing is seen or appreciated or thought to be different from me. That difference goes away. Everything is pratyak, everything is a self. Nothing is non-self. That knowledge is possible in this manner. Nanu evam paragarthasya asatve kathamatma pratyaktvam. So thus nothing external remains. You call it pratyegatma, the inner self. But in this way, adhyatma, adhibhuta, etc. are all reduced to pratyegatma. There is nothing apart from pratyegatma, inner self. There is no external, nothing external to pratyegatma. How call it internal? It says pratyaktvam. Katham atmana pratyaktvam sarvagatattvam ityad upadyate. In this manner, nothing external remains. How do you call it atma as internal? Nothing pervaded remains. How do you call him all pervasive? Atma pratyaktvam sarvagatattvam ityadi katham upadyate. Why? Tasya parachena vikara apekshatvat. Tasya pratyaktattvasya. The pratyaktvam, the innerness, always is in reference to or with standpoint of external. But inner always requires something outer. Inner always is with reference to outer. There cannot be inner in our mind without outer. But everything is Atma, there is no outer. How could you call Atma inner Atma? So why that Visheshanam Pratyagatma? How can Pratyaktvam innerness remain when there is nothing that is external? How can you call Atma pervasive when there is nothing else to be pervaded? Pervader and pervaded. Then only you can say Atma pervades everything. There is no everything other than Atma. So we cannot use these adjectives for Atma also. Atah katham paracham pratyagatma avsanattvamiti. So paracham means those which are external, of the external. How this so-called external will dissolve into internal. When the division of external, internal are not there, how will the external resolve into internal? He says, you're right. We begin with these divisions of external, internal. It is true that ultimately these divisions do not remain. Chinmatra swarupasyeva apurvadi lakshanasya pratyagadi shabdai lakshatvad. Tadetat brahma apurvam anaparam. So the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says. Apurvam, which is not preceded by purva. Anaparam, not followed by anything. Apurva means that does not have purva, doesn't have cause. Anaparam doesn't apara, not follow anything, it doesn't have any effect. So Brahman does not have a cause, does not have an effect. Brahman itself is not a cause, nor an effect. Brahman was the self, which is devoid of cause and effect, which is not a cause and effect also, is Chinmatram. That Satchit or Asthibhati is Brahman of this nature. It doesn't have a cause because then there will be, if Asthibhati had a cause, then it will be accompanied by something. It doesn't have effect also because it will always accompany something. If Asthibhati is the cause, material cause, the material cause must accompany the effect. Asthibhati is material cause of the universe, then you cannot think of universe without Asthibhati. The Asthibhati will also involve the universe, but no, universe can be completely negated. Therefore, Asthibhati cannot be called the cause also, material cause in primary sense. It is neither effect nor the cause because it does not satisfy the criterion of being an effect or a cause. So, apurvam, anaparam, very important. Meaning that in the knowledge of Asthibhati, the knowledge of the creation is not involved at all. In creation, Asthibhati is always involved. In that sense, you can call it cause. But in Asthibhati, Nama Rupa is not involved, so it is not cause in primary sense. Chinmata Swarupasyeva Apurvadi Lakshanasya Apurvam Anaparam. That is Lakshanam, the characteristic of which Atma. Pratyagadi Shabdehi Lakshatvat. Meaning that word Pratyak or inner also does not apply in primary sense. Any word ultimately leads to knowledge of the self by only Lakshana Vritti. Meaning that in the knowledge of self, the primary meaning of the word does not remain. In knowledge of self, innerness also does not remain ultimately. If innerness remains, then that will require externalness or outerness. But even Pratyak Shabda also is by Lakshyartha alone reveals Atma. So Pratyagadi Shabdai Lakshyatvad. What is Chinmata Swarupam? Is only pointed out, indicated or implied by the word Pratyak. Not that Pratyaktam, innerness, is a primary quality or attribute of Chinmata. Lakshamana Dashayam Arovida Paragartha Apekshaya. So right now, in the realm of ignorance, I think there is something out there and something here in here. Therefore, right now in my mind, there is no sense of external, internal. Right now it is there. In that sense, Atma is called inner Atma, to exclude outerness. Atma may be called a witness or drashta to exclude drishya. Atma, Anatma, Viveka is done only to exclude Anatma. Ultimately, even Atma, Anatma division also does not remain. So, Pratyaktva is only to exclude Paratva. And when there is excluded, Pratyakta also does not remain. So, all these words also, they only point out to Atma by Lakshana Vritti. Pratyagadishvai Lakshyatvad Lakshyamana Dashayam Arovida Paragartha Apekshayam api. That when we use this Lakshyartha, there is a reason. In the state of ignorance, when we use the Lakshyartha, then we call it inner because there is in my mind something called outer. And therefore the word inner is used. Lakshamana Dashayam Arovita paragartha apekshayamapi. So when Lakshamana Dashayam, when this Lakshyatvam, the targeted meaning is thought of, then you are targeting something based on what you see. I see something out there external. The inner is targeted meaning. So what inner is used with when there is external in my mind. Therefore the word inner is used. Therefore, Lakshamana Dashayam Aropita Paragartha Apekshayam api. So when the Lakshyatvam, the targeted meaning is used, that time there is this outerness in my mind. With reference to I use the word inner. Swarupasya anapekshatvat. But Swarupa, true nature, does not require innerness. Swarupa is unopposed to everything, and therefore innerness also does not remain when external is not there, outerness. Yuktam sarvasya pratyagatma avasanatva avadharanam. Therefore, it's quite appropriate to say that everything is on the pratyagatma, where pratyak doesn't have a primary meaning anyway. No word is a primary. Atma also doesn't have a primary meaning. Every word will leave its meaning and then disappear. So Atma is opposed to Anatma also doesn't remain. Pratyak is opposed to Parag also does not remain. Atma opposed to Anatma also doesn't remain. And therefore, Pratyagatma avasanatva avadharanam. Therefore, Pratyagatma avasaneshu, that we can say that it all resolves into Pratyagatma only in this sense. Drishtantena upadayati explains with reasoning with Drishtanta illustration in the third verse here. Vayavadinam yathotpattehe purvam kham sarvagam tatha ahamekas sada shuddha chinmatra sarvagodvaya. Yatha utpattehe purvam. Just as before the creation, Vayavadina, Yatha Vayavadina utpattehe purvam, before the creation of Vayu, etc. What does that come? What opinion was come in the space? Sarvagam. It was called Purvam. Earlier, Sarvagam, all pervading. Tatha. Similarly, before the creation. So before the creation, Vayu, etc., what is space? All pervasive, all shining, one non-dual. Meaning that the cause is like that. In the effect, there is Vayu, etc., the divisions are there. But before the creation, those divisions are not there. Just as in space, what is space is self-shining, all-pervasive. So that's the idea here. That those divisions that we see in the effect, they do not obtain in the cause, that's all. The manyness that you see in the Vayu, etc., it does not remain in the Kham or in the space which is the cause. That is the example. Ahameka, similarly also, all the divisions of Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Adhidaiva, or Parag, Pratyak, all divisions are there at the level of creation. But at the level of cause, none of these divisions remain. Tatha ahamekah sadashuddha chinmatra sarvagah advayah. So space is an example, a good example to contemplate upon sarvagah, all pervasive, advayah, non-dual, ekah, one, tatha aham ekah. Aham, ever one, always one. Sada Shuddha, space is unpolluted. I am also Sada, ever pure. Chinmatra, space is shining, self-shining, so also I am Chinmatra. Sarvagaha, all pervasive. Advayaha, non-dual, because there is nothing other than space. So just as effects, there is Vayu and others, before their creation, were nothing but space, which is one, non-divided, self-shining, all pervasive, ever pure. So also I am. Before the divisions of Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Adhideva, Pratyak, Parak, all this is there in product. But it's interesting how in the cause nothing is there. Usually, the cause is potential of what is there in the effect. So Sankhyas would say that the cause of the universe is the three gunas which must have the potential of what we see in the effect. Vedantin says not necessarily so. The effect is mithya, then the cause is not required to have that. See, this is where the Vedantin differs from other fellows. They accept a linear process. Where the cause has potential there, Satkaryavada. That the Karya is very much there in the Karanam. Vedanta says no, doesn't have to be. If Karya is real, then yes, but if Karya is projected, is Kalpana, is Mithya, then no. So how Karanam can be devoid of any divisions or impurities of the effect? You follow? That's the idea here. So, manyness, impurities, the jadata, the inertness, non-pervasiveness, duality, deviance, all of this is found in the creation. So one would think that the effect, the cause also is all, the cause is devoid of all of this. The space is devoid of all divisions of Vayu, etc. Nothing that is created is all pervasive, or ever pure, or non-dual. But the cause is, so also the cause of the creation is Pratyekatma. And thus, how the effect is totally negated without leaving a trace. That's called Lakshyartha. Lakshyartha is that where Vachyartha resolves without leaving a trace. That's called Lakshyartha. So here also, the cause is arrived at by Lakshyartha, leaving no trace of the effect, because there is no relationship at all. The relationship is only Adhyaropa, Adhisthana. That's the relationship. So that's how it is possible to arrive at the cause which is Pratyekatma in this manner. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.